So this presentation is going to be on job performance and performance appraisals. So just a quick introduction, performance appraisals measure employee performance in comparison to certain predetermined standards. A little background about me is I do have work experience at Nordstrom Rack, and I've been there for about 2 years, and what we have is called annual performance reviews, which is what APRs are. So a conflict that I had encountered at work was when a coworker disclosed a time when she received a confusing performance review. Essentially, the problem was that because she didn't work often with a manager, the times that they do work together are the only times they were used as a reference when talking about work ethic and just habits in general. Some textbook information about the subject would be that there were objective and subjective performance criteria, and the objective performance criteria refers to the measurement of some quantifiable aspect of the job, such as number of sales, whereas the subjective performance criteria consists of judgments of ratings and made by some knowledgeable individuals, such as a supervisor. So the main advantage of an objective performance criteria would be that it is being less prone to bias or distortion, the subjective performance, and is directly tied to bottom line assessments of an organization's success. Main advantages of a subjective performance criteria would be that it is more useful in terms of how well an employee can work together with other coworkers, and it's relatively inexpensive to obtain and may be the preferred method of an assessment. So which one is better? I think it's supposed to have both objective and subjective performance criteria, just because some jobs don't always allow you to have quantifiable aspects of the job, such as customer service. You really don't know how to measure that and how well, in terms of numbers, that can be measured. So I think subjective and objective are both important to measure a performance review. So, in a research study done by Kavanaugh, Benson, and Brown in 2007, they aimed to investigate the role of employee participation in performance appraisals, attitudes towards the manager, and knowledge of the performance appraisal system in fostering employees' perceptions of performance appraisal fairness. In the study, they had a setting in Australian public sector where they had about 7,000 employees. The procedure of a single organization allows the studies to control for the identical organization environment and the same standard set of employment conditions. After collecting data from surveys and accounting for missing data, that number went down to about 2,377. So the dependent variable is performance appraisal fairness, which is basically the perception of how employees would perceive the performance appraisal process to be fair. The independent variables would be the two-way involvement, neutrality, clarity, understand, and accept. So there is going to be 6 independent variables, and for those 6 independent variables, there are also 6 different hypotheses. You can, if you want to know more in depth, you can definitely search up the article that this is about, and you can read more up on that. The findings showed that all variables such as participation in the appraisal process, attitude towards the supervisor, and knowledge of the appraisal system had a positive effect on performance appraisal fairness. So all in all, the proposed solution with regard to the textbook and the research study, I would ensure that my manager had both objective and subjective performance criteria that were agreed upon by both parties. Encourage that my manager set guidelines for the appraisal system and to educate their employees about it. Have one-on-one discussions about the performance appraisal system and elaborate if there are any questions, especially if the coworker is new to the store and she may be coming from a different store that had a different type of rating process. It'd be good to elaborate on the new process. And have performance reviews more often and not just annually. I think this is definitely going to be something that Nordstrom Rack itself is trying to implement. I think we're going to have quarterly reviews instead of annually, just because it's really hard to think back about maybe a year ago, certain situations that may have impacted a person's character or work ethic, and it really could be a defining moment for them. So I think having it annually is just too far of a stretch, and having it quarterly would be better to assess skills and assets that are able to work on at a faster time. If you're going to be talking about something that happened 6 months ago, it's going to be harder for a person to remember what they did wrong maybe, or how they can improve that, rather than 2 or 3 months ago. So I think that would be very effective in terms of trying to reroute skill sets that would be more effective in their job. And that is it.